In this video, we're going to discuss the idea of composite functions. That's taking one function and putting it inside of another. So before we started, I wanted to first note that these three notations are all equivalent. All of those are saying to take some g of x function and put it inside of an f function. All three of those notations are to be read f of g of x. I'd personally like you to make particular note of this first one. I believe this is the best notation to help us actually write composite functions. And you'll see why I'm saying that in a second. So let's look at an example. We're given that an f of x function is 3x plus 5, and a g of x function is negative 2x plus 1. And I want to start by finding f of g of x. So before I begin, the first thing I would like to do is switch this f of g of x notation to the one that I prefer, f of g of x. Now, I want to note from above that f of x was originally 3 times x plus 5. Do you notice how g of x is in the same place as x? G of x is in the same place as x. So 3 times I'm replacing x with g of x. G of x is in place of x. So if I want to find f of g of x, in the original function, I'm replacing x with whatever g of x is, which in this case is negative 2x plus 1. That is g of x in place of the original x. Once we do that, we're going to simplify the function to make it look as neat as possible. So here I would need to distribute 3. Negative 6x plus 3 plus 5. This is negative 6x plus 8. F of g of x is negative 6x plus 8. Alright, so let's try the one below. Find g of g of x. Alright, let's start first by writing this with the different notation. G of g of x is saying to find this. Okay, well above that, I'm going to note the original g of x function. G of x equaled negative 2 times x plus 1. So I'm replacing that x there with g of x. This would equal negative 2 times I'm replacing that x with g of x. So if we do that substitution, this is negative 2 times negative 2x plus 1. Simplifying that by distributing negative 2, we'd actually get positive 4x minus 2 plus 1. So g of g of x is 4x minus 1. Let's do that again with a few different functions and then talk about inputting values. So here I'm given f of x equals 4x minus 2 and g of x equals x squared minus 4. So in part A, we want to find g of f of x. So I'm going to start with the fact that g of x is x squared minus 4. So if we want to find g of f of x, then I need to replace the x in the original g of x function with f of x. So now you can see where there was an x, there's now an f of x. And we know f of x is 4x minus 2. So this is just 4x minus 2 squared minus 4. If we want to, we can simplify this expression. It's 4x minus 2 times 4x minus 2 minus 4. That's what 4x minus 2 squared means. And if we distribute this, we get 16x squared minus 8x plus 4 minus 4. So this whole expression is actually 16x squared minus 16x. That is our g of f of x. All right, so let's talk about the one below now, f of g of negative 2. This is actually asking us to find f of g of negative 2 in this way. So to find this value, we're first going to recognize, well, f of x is 4 times x minus 2. So I want to replace that x with a g of negative 2. This is really 4 times g of negative 2 minus 2. G of negative 2 is a value. We can find g of negative 2 by plugging negative 2 into the g of x function. G of negative 2 would be negative 2 squared minus 4. And again, that's using the g of x function up here. So g of negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4 minus 4. G of negative 2 is 0. That is actually what needs to go into this function. 4 times 0 minus 2. That's 0 minus 2. F of g of negative 2 is negative 2. Lastly, let's find g of f of negative 2, which is asking for something slightly different. This is asking for g of f of negative 2. Let's note that originally g of x equaled x squared minus 4. So we want to replace that x with f of negative 2. So we need to find f of negative 2 to replace that. F of negative 2, if I use the f of x function, is 4 times negative 2 minus 2. That's negative 8 minus 2 is negative 10. That's what I need to replace there. Negative 10 squared minus 4. Negative 10 squared is positive 100 minus 4. This is 96. G of f of negative 2 is 96.